Yeah, okay. So this is the title of my presentation and the word here, being visiting research student. First of all, I would like to acknowledge everybody, including my supervisors from Pakistan, Dr. Abedullah, Dr. Shujat, and definitely Dr. Faye here. Is the window. Just minimize the window. And also, I would like to thank UWA for providing me with this learning opportunity. So, I have presented one part of my work already in the conference here, but for you people to get a recap that what actually rural transformation is, I put a slide for the details to that. Basically, rural development is about the reconstruction of the rural economies and about their changing patterns as far as the rapid industrialization, urbanization, changing the cropping patterns and farming structures are concerned. And the transformation is the economic and societal process that makes these all changes work on and on, in the production and in marketing activities. And this all not only on happen on farm, but also it's happening off farm. For the households in rural areas, they become more productive, they become more efficient, and they become commercially oriented as rural areas become increasingly integrated with the market. So everything in the rurality is it's have a connection to each other. And when everything grows and moves on and on, that's the part of rural transformation. So, based upon the endogenous characteristics and the different specialities of the rurality, it may happen that the rural transformation may happen differently in different regions. Some may be, far ahead, some may be in the normal progress, some may be lag behind. So that ultimately causes the regional development imbalances. So we need to learn them. The coordination and balance in the different dimensions is very much important that we learn. And another thing that we'll keep in mind in learning our whole discussion is that it's not a static phenomena. The rural transformation is rather it also exhibits some special characteristics. What special characteristics actually are, we'll come to know as I proceed with my presentation. So before that, just have a quick recap that because this specific studies focuses on what drives rural transformation. So what for the case of Pakistan. So just quick have a look that what drives rural transformation in the other countries. Like in the case of India, they are having different credit drivers that help and enable the farmers to raise their productivity by doing the investments because they have the finance in the machinery in the modern technology. So that becomes the reason for their rural transformation over time. In China too, the agriculture credit boosted the farming technology and in turn, leads to transformation and later development. Brazil also had the credit system with the that support the small scale farmers there. India, education also serves as one of the driver that break the intergenerational occupational issues in the occupational mobility. In India, we were having a different type of the social classes, which limits the people to switch their occupation, especially in the rural areas. If the father is a farmer, son remain a farmer. But with the education, that intergenerational occupational mobility break, and that makes them move towards the more diversified, areas, not only stick to the farm, but also to the off-farm activities, and hence transformation is evident there. Afghanistan and Nigeria, for them, the irrigation works very well. The irrigation technologies that boost the crop yield, enhance the food security, improve the rural livestock, etc. Just I put some more drivers that I found from the literature that opportunities in the secondary industries, income, investment, resource endowment, geographical factors, financial development policy. These are all the different drivers I find in the literature that can be helpful in driving the rural transformation. For the case of Pakistan, this area is under research because though it's very important, there are a few studies in the credit for the case credit in Pakistan, but when we know the credit has a role to play, but Pakistan farmers heavily they depend on the traditional money lenders. They less go to the formal markets. They more stick to the informal markets. Although the trend is being changed in the recent 5 7 years, now the formal credit also being developed there. But previously, these were the cases. Irrigation is also very important for the agricultural productivity, but the studies are very less. Some studies only focus on rural well-being and relate that to irrigation or subjective well-being, crop productivity, but they don't do the its holistic analysis. Education also, they only relate that to the sum of the poverty, but did not relate that as a driver to the whole rural transformation development in the case of Pakistan. So there is a knowledge gap, there is a methodological gap because I have used spatial temporal analysis. It's not been done before in this area. And theoretical gap is also covered because the rural transformation, the way I measure, it's through an index where I have took indicators which are not previously being, taken much. So keeping these research gaps in mind, my study will focus to evaluate the spatial impact of these particular drivers, which I'll have in my study: infrastructure, credit, irrigation, climate, and education. These drivers will be seen their impact on rural transformation. Specifically, I will examine the temporal dynamics of rural transformation. I'll see the direct and spatial spillover effects of these drivers, and that's specifically focusing on the interaction of the different districts because my study is a regional study and administrative unit of my studies are the districts. Like in case of Pakistan, we have smaller divisions. These are known as districts. So to assess how these impacts gonna vary along with the different stages of rural transformation. What are the stages of transformation? I will explain them along with the results. So this is basically the theoretical framework for you people to understand the connectivities. Since I mentioned already the different drivers whose impact I'm going to see on in this index. So my index is based upon these 5 indicators. I'll not go much into the details of that. Just quickly, these are the 5 different indicators. I have used the principal component analysis to develop the index using the unequal weights. Then I see these impacts on them. It has different channels to it work. Like for example, if the irrigation facilities are getting better, it's helpful for the farmers to adopt the high value crops. High value crop is one part of the rural transformation. The increase in the share of livestock is another. Changes in the increase in the share of the non-farming family is another. Urbanization is another. And the how land is being utilized, the change in the land use patterns, these are all other representation of the road transformation which I took in my study as indicators. So these different drivers, they anyhow affect either all of the indicators or some of them, but ultimately they are affecting the indices. If the irrigation facilities are getting better, since the high value crop, they are considered to be more water sensitive because in high value crop we have got fruits, vegetables, etc. They are and some other crops also that requires water. So better water, better adoption of high value crops, and then the productivity in the crop sector increases. So some labor is being spared. That spared labor go to the non-farm sector, and ultimately it leads to rural transformation. Similar for the case of the credit, if the credit facilities are there, people got the money, finances with them, it's easy for them to adopt the technology. They will practice the better agriculture, the way to do the agri. And along with that, again, when agriculture sector get productive, it all spare labor anyhow that can be utilized to the other sector. Not only through the labor, but also when the profits in one sector increases, that ultimately leads to people get more invested in the other sectors as well. Education also has the different channels. Education also boosts the farm sector, plus it boosts the off-farm sector, plus with the education, people get the encouragement to do some urbanization as well. They have the more understanding to better use the land patterns. With the education, they know that doing investment in the livestock for meat and the milk is also something good. So they get more and more information and things like that. Infrastructure is very important. Climate change can go either way around. If you take climate change as something negative because it's a shock kind of thing, then it can negatively affect the adoption of the crop side and sometimes lead to rural migration. So ultimately, the climate factor can be overall positive or negative. The spatial spillovers, which are very important in my study, the spatial spillovers that can be have a direct effect or that can have the indirect effect with the drivers. Like here, spatial spillovers means that rural transformation happening in one region can affect the rural transformation happening in another region, being the neighborhood effect, being close to each other geographically. Okay, through neighborhood effect, through knowledge spillovers, through share of the technology, through multiple ways. So rural transformation in one affected by the rural transformation in other. And if we look to the drivers, that's also the possibility. The drivers, what drives rural transformation in one region may drive the rural transformation in the other region. For example, In the nearby district, you are having the better irrigation facility, so that irrigation may be passing by some other districts. So those districts are also get benefit of that driver. Similarly, if one district will have the more of the formal credit of availability, it's maybe easier for the neighborhood districts to go there and acquire the credit facility from there. So if those there's a possibility of clusters that if one cluster is going to develop, it may have the positive impacts for the near neighborhood clusters. So one of the objective is to see that such type of clustering and spatial spillovers exist for the case of Pakistan or not. There are also some external factors that are going to affect the whole system. Those are the industrialization and globalization. Overall, if these are happening, for the sake of good, because for the developing countries the relationships may happen for the sake of good or not for the sake of good. So if industrialization and globalization are supporting the parameters of our system, then it's good. And the policy guidance from the side of the government is gonna boost more the positive impacts. But if there are something negative happening, so the policy guidance will help to mitigate the negative impact so that overall system is gonna work, and that will ultimately lead to the overall development of the economy. This is my study area, the colored highlighted. I have taken the 78 districts of the Pakistan, and the 78 are actually representing 92 districts because some of the districts they later bifurcated, so we include them as well. So overall, there are about 92 districts. There are 78 districts, but they are representing 92 districts. The rest of the districts are not included because some of them don't have the agriculture, and because in the rural agriculture is very important part. So if we are going to miss that part, so that will not be comparable thing. So those districts which are purely urban, not having the rural areas, or they don't have the agriculture, or some of the districts are dropped because they don't have the data too. So we're left with this much of the districts on which we work. These are the 5 indicators which were present in my mathematical framework as well. These 5 indicators are let me quickly go through that how they are being defined. When I talk about high value crops, it means share of high value crop means that how much is the percentage of the total output value of the high value crops in the gross agriculture output. From high value crop, I mean cotton, tobacco, all the oil crops, all the sugar crops. In horticulture, I took the fruits and the vegetables. So that share. From the livestock, I mean the percentage share of the total output value of the livestock products. In livestock products, I took milk and meat and how much it's shared in the gross agriculture output. In some studies, in a lot of studies, these two are clubbed together, but I took it separately because for the case of Pakistan, the share of livestock in total agriculture GDP is more than 60% and it's rising over time, so it needs to be handled separately. Urbanization can be a driver, can be an indicator, but I took it as an indicator here. It's the percentage share of the urban population, total population. Non-farm employment is calculated by separating the agriculture, forestry, hunting, and fishing from the total employment. So whatever is left is the non-farm employment. And land intensity is actually the percentage share of the cultivated area in total cultivable area, that how much land is being, intensively utilized for the sake of crops. These are the drivers. How the measure irrigation I took as the share of the irrigated farmland in the total zone area. And this irrigated farmland can be from the 3 different sources that we have in Pakistan. One is canal system, other is a tube well, which is the underground water, and third one is the canal tube well, where the both facilities are there. So from 3 sources, I will have the separate indicators to see that which one is more playing its role for the rural transformation. Education is taken as a number of the year of schooling of the rural population. Credit took both, farm credit and the consists both the farm and production credit that's given to the agriculture sector is measured in billion rupees. And for the climate, I took there were different proxies, but I took the maximum temperature, average maximum temperature in each district for my included time periods. For infrastructure, there were a lot of possibilities, but due to data constraints, I couldn't have the data for the period I am doing the study on. So I took the percentage share of the rural population that are satisfied with the road facility and the percentage share of the population that are satisfied with the banking facility. That all the data are taken from the different sources from Pakistan. Since I planned to do the spatial analysis, considering that rural transformation is not a process that could only happen and remain confined to the boundary, and it's not going to happen anywhere. So, theoretically, considering the nature of my variable, which is the main one, so I decided to proceed with the spatial analysis. So, before proceeding with the spatial analysis, certain things that we need to look at, that how we are going to define our spatial weight matrices. This is how the spatial interdependencies are there, that how the different spatial units are connected to each other. Okay. I took there are different ways to do, since I am having the districts with me for the four time periods 2004, 2009, 2014, and 2019. And I am having polygons. So for polygons, I took the Queen contiguity where the edges and the corners both become the neighborhood. It's important to define the neighborhood, that who you call neighbor. So I took the Queen contiguity, that who whatever districts, polygons are connected either by edges or by corners, they are considered as a neighborhood. In order to further proceed with the spatial analysis, we need to have that either there is some non-randomness. So non-randomness is there. It's been obvious by the global more and I. With the LR test, I just decided that which model to go for. So I go for SPM. This is the spatial Durbin model. And in spatial Durbin model, there are further more models. So but whoever's AIC is less, I took that. So in my case, yes, a dynamic spatial Durbin model with time fixed effect has been selected. These are the reasons I'm having running short of time, so I quickly move to the results. I'll focus on the main findings. If you see the first term here, LRTDI, this is basically the temporal lag of my main variable, that how my variable behave over time. So since the I will only go to the explanation of the model 4, which is the detailed model having all the variables. So if you see the value is highly significant, that shows that rural transformation in the current period is positively affected by the rural transformation in the previous subsequent period. So it means that there is some temporal relationship of the rural transformation in 1 year with the rural transformation in the previous period. Then there is the LWR. This is the lag of the spillovers. Like if rural transformation happening in the neighboring regions in the past period, also going to affect that. So this is the spatial lag of the temporal lag. Connected to that, it's better to I will explain rho first. Rho here is the spatial. It's representing the spatial dependency. It's again significant. It shows that it has proved that there are transformation in the different regions. They are having a connection to each other. Now, what actually connected them and what drives them? So, in my case, education appears to be significant, and the irrigation variables appears to be significant. Quickly, I'll tell you that what we mean by S2, S3 in each case. These are the different stages. We divide the root transformation in three stages, stage 1, 2, and 3 by different methodologies. Stage 2 and 3 has been taken as an interaction dummy, interaction to my variables, and stage 1 happens to be the base category. So, for example, education of rural population in stage 2 happens to be significant, and stage 3 also significant. But if you see the magnitude of the coefficient, it increases with stages. So it means that with each higher stages, the impact of this driver enhances more. Similarly, the impact of the canal irrigation system with the tube wells, with the other canal and tube well, it enhances over time. The bigger one is coming from the canal side. In Pakistan, we have a very good canal system, so it's having a very good relationship with the rural transformation. Quickly going to the end, these are the spillover effects. In spillovers, we are only having it for some for the irrigation. Like for the irrigation through the canal system in the stage 2, and for the irrigation through the canal and tubal system in the stage 2. So these are also having the spillover effects. The rural transformation in the previous period significantly influences the current period rural transformation, and that means there is temporal persistence. Spatial spillovers are also evident that rural transformation in one district, it correlates positively with the neighboring districts, and education and irrigation are happen to be the most prominent drivers of rural transformation. So based upon these conclusions, we need to have the long-term rural development policies because of that temporal significance. We need to have the long-term rural development policies. We need to promote the collaboration of the different districts so that we are going to have the inter-district development synergies. We need to improve access to the education and education system, but not individually. Rather, we need to integrate the whole development strategies in a good way so that we can have a holistic path for the development. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much for that presentation.
Yeah,
Now we have about 5 minutes for questions, and the people online can also ask questions. We should be able to hear you through our speaker. Mic speaker.
Yeah.
If you go back to the table that had the Morals Eye on it.
It's more outside. Yeah, this one.
So that looks interesting because it's suggesting that there's clustering initially and then it's getting more even, and then very suddenly at the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's some. This is a measure of clustering of the development of transformation.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what happened between 2014 and 2019?
Yeah.
Suddenly caused.
Yeah. Okay. Actually, in 2000 after 2010-12, we were having these severe floods in Pakistan that affects the ruralities very badly. Then we got the very new policies being adopted for the rural development transformation. So in those policies, there were the credit provisions, there were the subsidies on the imports, a lot of stuff. So their impact started from here in 2014 and they continue onward. So in Pakistan, whenever we are having some policies, so they are for some region, like we are having 4 provinces. So our policies are determined at the province level because of the fiscal decentralization. Some decisions taken at the federal level, a lot of decisions taken at the provincial level. So whenever some shock or something happened, then at the regional level, provincial level, they took certain policies. And since in Pakistan, if I just for your understanding, look over here, this is the province of Punjab. In Punjab, we are having a lot of water, very good water system. Plus, we are having different endogenous characteristics for this southern part of the Punjab. Okay, and then for this part of the Punjab, we are having some different characteristics. This upper Punjab is very much having more facilities. Things happen to have the more supporting and confounding factors. So I did not have the graphs here for the clustering, but once I was looking at the clustering in my other paper, so clustering happens to be here. Clustering happens to be here, and clustering happens to be here in the parts of the Sindh. So that depends upon that how policy is going to affect the certain regions, and that ultimately also dependent upon their endogenous and baseline factors. So with a similar policy, maybe some get better results, some may not get, and some factors may improve the clustering and some might not. So clustering improved over time because of the different policies that we.
It's becoming more unequal. I think with the way of interpreting this is that transformation is becoming more unequal across the country.
There are 2 things happening. It's non-random plus it's clustering. All clusters are not sharing the same level of growth transformation. There are 5 different types of the clusters we have. The low-lying clusters, which are having the low transformation. So non-randomness, randomness is there because there are inter-district disparities are there. Okay, but they are clusters. Now, all clusters doesn't mean that they are good clusters. Some are low development clusters, some are medium development clusters, some are high development clusters, and in my paper, I have 5 different categories identified: low, intermediate low, medium high, and intermediate high. And then I look at the clusters. So every cluster doesn't mean that it's a good cluster. Like for example, the Balochistan, this is our province which is very less developed. It has a low cluster. The Upper Punjab, it has a high cluster. The Southern Punjab, it has a kind of medium cluster. In Sindh, we have the variety. So this is how it works. Yeah.
Sure. Time for 1 minute question and answer.
So does the light variable mean you have a reduction in degrees of freedom because you haven't got many degrees of freedom?
So I will get you, sir.
Yeah, so does the lagged variable mean that you reduced your number of degrees of freedom? Got, is it 234 observations? Does that then go down by 78?
You talk about this? So these are the districts, these are the number of districts, and these are the number of observations. They don't fall.
On the light variable, you must lose 78 observation. But then just follow on question, is there any way of increasing your, because you haven't got many degrees of freedom, so increasing the number of degrees of freedom was again
Actually, my
sub-districts?
yeah, okay. Actually, my number of observations were 312, and because since I use a dynamic model, so because of the lag, I fall off of 78 of them. I left with 234 number of degrees of freedom. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Because it has been a great presentation. I have more questions I will ask you after this.
Okay.
And if you also have more questions to comment, it would be great if you can forward for after this seminar. That's it, unless you want to do something. Well,
Okay, I just have maybe just it's just an observation, a comment. Can you hear me clearly?
Yeah.
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 Okay, so the first thing is that, okay, I think you started well and you talked about a rural transformation, and then you went and showed the theoretical framework about the rural transformation. Maybe if you can just go there, the rural theoretical framework. Yeah, so this is your theoretical framework. So if you call this your theoretical framework, then it would beg the question, what is the theory that you are trying to test here? I think maybe this should be more of a conceptual framework than a theoretical framework. I would call it a conceptual framework rather than a theoretical framework.
Okay.
Yeah, because if it's a theoretical framework, then I would want to see what is the theory of rural transformation.
Okay.
And I would want to understand what is your hypothesis about the implication of the indicators that you have, irrigation, credit, education, and how do those things contribute to rural transformation. I don't think that has been explained clearly, but I think maybe calling it a conceptual framework would be okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah.
Okay, and then the other thing I note is that you talk about the value of the share values. I think of was it what was it? I think the share values of crops, the high valued crops. Yeah, the share the share value of high valued crops. And again, I think for the purpose of clarity, I think it would be important to maybe when you're writing the paper to be more clear about how those were computed, because one would be interested in knowing, did you deflate the values? Because we have 10 years period. And if you are just looking at those values without considering maybe the effect of inflation. So the question is that were those deflated before you computed the share values, or how did you go about with that? So it's just a matter of clarity.
Yeah, okay.
When somebody is reading or reading your paper. And then the next one is that when you go to your model, I know you are time constrained, so you did not elaborate more on the model. Yeah. But even if you not, maybe if you just put a structure and then just an equation of what exactly is the model that you're trying to estimate, so that it's clear in the mind of your audience, especially for people maybe who not understand econometric, or what is the spatial model that you're trying to estimate. And then it wasn't clear to me. I'm not sure. Maybe I missed this. Did you explain what your dependent variable is? I know it is the rural transformation, but again, you did not explain how that metric of rural transformation is estimated. And I think maybe it's because of time constraint. Yeah. But I think still it should be somewhere so that it's clear in the mind of whoever is following your work, what is the dependent variable in your model?
Yeah, I verbally explain that it's by an index to these variables which are there on the screen. But yes, because of time constraint, I didn't put much detail to that. Yeah,
I know it's an index, but I think maybe just putting a slide or what, or explaining how was that index estimated. I think, and that would be the most important part, because your results are as good as maybe the variables that you have used in your model. And I would be interested in knowing how was that variable computed.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So those are just my observations. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.